I still remember the way the dealership smelled that afternoon. A mix of leather seats, wax polish, and the faint tang of new paint. My palms were sweaty as I signed the papers, my hand trembling slightly because every stroke of the pen felt like carving a piece of myself away. I had worked for nearly 2 years without a proper vacation, cutting corners on meals, skipping outings with friends, denying myself little luxuries just to make this moment possible. A brand new car. Not for me, but for him, Derek. He wasn't just my boyfriend. He was the man I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with. We'd been together for 5 years, since my last semester of college, when he helped me move into my first off-campus apartment. He had this easy smile, a charm that felt like sunlight in the middle of winter, and a way of making promises that made you believe them. When he talked about our future, I could see it so vividly. Marriage, kids, a little house in the suburbs with a porch swing and a golden retriever. But dreams cost money, and reality had a way of punching holes through every plan. Derek worked odd jobs here and there, never really committing to one path. He had talent, sure. He could fix an engine better than most mechanics, but he lacked discipline. He'd always say, "I just need one big break, babe. One client who sees what I can do." Meanwhile, the bills piled up and I carried them on my shoulders. I told myself it was temporary. That's what love does. It excuses, it rationalizes. I worked long hours as an administrative assistant at a small firm in Denver, telling myself the struggle would make us stronger, that someday we'd look back and laugh about how broke we were, how hard we hustled. So when I slid the key across the desk and the salesman dropped it into my palm, my chest swelled with pride. I could finally give Derek something he always wanted, something he deserved. The car was sleek, shiny black paint, chrome wheels, and a leather interior that smelled like possibility. It wasn't a luxury car, nothing too extravagant, but it was new, reliable, and ours. I imagined the look on Derek's face when I pulled into the driveway, imagined him rushing out, his arms wrapping around me, his voice cracking as he said, "You did this for me?" That night, I parked it outside our little rental house and called him to the door. He stepped outside wearing sweatpants and a worn hoodie, his hair messy, a cigarette dangling between his fingers. His eyes widened when he saw the car. "Baby, no way," he breathed, walking up to it, his hand gliding over the hood like it was some rare gem. I smiled, tears prickling in my eyes. "It's yours." He turned, his mouth hanging open. "You bought this for me?" I nodded, my heart racing, waiting for the rush of gratitude, of love. Instead, he laughed, shaking his head. "Damn, you really did it. You're amazing." He kissed me quickly, almost distractedly, before sliding into the driver's seat. He revved the engine, grinning like a kid on Christmas morning. "This is sick. I gotta show the guys." "Wait," I said softly. "Maybe we can go for a drive together first?" But he was already pulling out of the driveway. I stood there on the porch, hugging myself against the cool Colorado night, watching the taillights disappear down the street. I told myself he'd be back soon, that he'd take me for a ride around the city, that we'd blast music and laugh like we used to when things were simple. Hours passed. Midnight came and went. I sat on the couch, staring at the clock, scrolling through my phone. No texts, no calls. I tried to push down the unease clawing at my stomach. When he finally stumbled in at nearly 3 a.m., smelling of beer and cigarettes, he tossed the keys onto the counter and said, "Man, everyone was so jealous. You should have seen their faces." I forced a smile even though tears burned behind my eyes. I had imagined the night so differently. The days that followed blurred into a strange mix of pride and unease. Derek loved showing off the car, driving it to his friends' houses, posting pictures online, even posing with it in front of bars. But something gnawed at me. He didn't invite me along. It was always him, always the guys, always, "I'll be back later." Then one evening, everything shattered. I had stayed late at work, finishing up reports, and by the time I got home, Derek was gone. The car too. At first, I didn't think much of it. He'd probably gone to see his friends again. But then my phone buzzed. It was a message from Angela, a coworker who lived a few blocks away. "Hey, I don't want to stir anything, but I just saw Derek's car parked outside some woman's house near West Colfax. He was there when I drove by an hour ago, and it's still there." My stomach dropped. I grabbed my jacket, my hands shaking so badly I could barely get the zipper up. My mind screamed at me to stay, to ignore it, but my heart dragged me out the door. I drove my old beater down the dimly lit streets, my chest pounding with every turn, and then I saw it. The car, the one I had worked endless nights to afford, parked neatly in the driveway of a small pale blue house with a sagging porch. The curtains in the front window glowed with warm light. I sat there for what felt like forever, gripping the steering wheel, my breath shallow. Finally, I saw the door open. Derek stepped out laughing, and behind him, a woman appeared. She was pretty, younger than me, with dark hair and a fitted dress that left little to the imagination. She leaned against the doorframe, smiling at him like he belonged to her. And then, God, I wish I hadn't seen it. She reached out, tugged him closer, and kissed him. I couldn't breathe. My hands flew to my mouth, muffling the sob that tore from my chest. I ducked down in my seat, my body trembling as if I'd been struck. He didn't see me. He didn't even look around. He just climbed back into the car I had bought with my sweat, my sacrifices, and drove off with her smile lingering in the doorway. I stayed there until my tears blurred the world into nothing but streaks of light and shadow. When I finally made it home, I collapsed on the couch, the weight of betrayal crushing me. The man I had loved, the man I had given everything for, had driven my gift straight into another woman's arms. And as I lay there in the silence of our empty house, one thought echoed in my mind. I had built my life around him, and he had built his around lies. The morning after I saw Derek outside that woman's house, I woke up with a pounding headache. It wasn't from alcohol, I hadn't touched a drop, but from the storm of emotions that had ripped through me all night. My eyes were swollen, my throat raw from crying. I didn't even remember falling falling asleep. I just remembered lying there, staring at the ceiling, replaying that kiss over and over again. When Derek stumbled into the kitchen around 10 a.m., his hair messy, smelling faintly of cologne that wasn't his usual brand, I sat at the table with a cold cup of coffee in front of me. He grinned when he saw me, leaning against the counter casually like nothing had happened. "Morning, babe. You're up early." I stared at him, my chest tightening. The lies were practically dripping off him, but he looked so at ease, so damn normal, that for a moment I questioned myself. Maybe I had imagined it. Maybe Angela had gotten it wrong. Maybe that kiss wasn't what it looked like, but the image of her lips on his was burned into me. "Where were you last night?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. He blinked, surprised. "I told you, I went out with the guys. We were just hanging out at Marcus's place, watching the game." I clenched my jaw. "Funny, because Angela saw your car parked near West Colfax. At some woman's house?" His expression didn't falter. Not immediately. But then I saw it. The flicker, the momentary crack in his mask. He laughed, shaking his head. "Angela, really?" She probably saw me dropping Marcus off. He was staying with his cousin out there. People love to stir things up, huh? My hands tightened around the coffee mug. He was so smooth, so convincing that if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I might have believed him. "I saw you, Derek." My voice broke, but I forced myself to meet his eyes. "I saw you with her." Silence. The kind that weighs down a room until it suffocates you. Finally, he sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Okay, yeah, I was there. But it's not what you think. She's just a friend. I was helping her with some car trouble, that's all. And he paused, shaking his head. "She kissed me." I didn't kiss her back. "You gotta believe me, baby." The gall of it made my blood boil. "Don't you dare insult me like that. I saw you. You weren't pulling away." His eyes darkened, his tone shifting from defensive to dangerous. "So what? You were spying on me now? Sitting outside someone's house like some crazy stalker?" The words cut deep. I felt the air leave my lungs. Somehow he had twisted it around so that I was the problem, I was the one in the wrong. "I was trying to protect what we have," I whispered. He slammed his hand on the counter, making me jump. "You don't trust me? After everything I've done for you, after all the years we've been together, you think I'd just throw it all away?" Tears welled up again, but I blinked them back. "After everything I've done for you," I shot back, my voice trembling. "I bought you that car, Derek. I saved for years. And you drove it straight to her house." That shut him up. For a moment, his facade slipped completely, and he looked like a child caught with his hand in the cookie jar. But then he recovered, forcing a scoff. "It's just a car. Don't make it into something it's not. Just a car." I wanted to scream, to grab him by the shoulders and shake him until he understood what it meant, how much of myself I had poured into that gift. But I didn't. I just sat there, my heart splintering piece by piece. That night, he didn't come home. No excuse, no text, nothing. I lay awake in our bed, staring at the empty space beside me, the smell of his cologne still lingering on the pillow. The silence in the house was deafening. Over the next week, the cracks in our relationship widened. He grew distant, always busy, always with the guys. When I confronted him, he'd snap back, accusing me of being paranoid, of smothering him. Gaslighting, though I didn't have that word for it back then. He was good at making me feel crazy, like I was imagining things that were right in front of me. And yet, part of me still clung to hope. Hope that the man I fell in love with was still in there somewhere. That this was just a phase, a mistake, something we could fix. Love makes fools of us all, and I was no exception. But reality has a way of breaking through the walls we build. One Friday evening, I decided to surprise him. I left work early, picked up his favorite takeout, and drove home, humming softly to the radio. When I pulled into the driveway, the car was gone. My stomach sank, but I told myself maybe he was running errands. Then I noticed something odd. His phone was on the counter. He never went anywhere without it. Curiosity turned to dread as I unlocked it, my hands shaking. The passcode hadn't changed. He trusted me enough, or was careless enough, not to hide it. The messages were all there, dozens of them. From her. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Last night was amazing. When are you telling her? You deserve better than her. She doesn't understand you like I do." Each word was a dagger, slicing away the last pieces of denial I'd been clinging to. By the time Derek walked through the door, whistling like nothing was wrong, I was sitting at the table with his phone in my hand. He froze when he saw it, his smile vanishing. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. His jaw tightened, his eyes flicking to the phone, then back to me. "You went through my stuff? Don't you dare," I snapped. "Don't you dare turn this on me again." "I know, Derek. I know everything." For a moment, he looked like he might confess, might finally show a shred of remorse. But instead, he sneered. "So what if I was with her? What are you gonna do about it? Leave? Please. You wouldn't last a week without me." The arrogance, the utter disregard in his tone sent a shiver through me, not of fear, but of clarity. For the first time, I saw him for what he truly was. Not the man I had built up in my head, not the partner I had sacrificed for, but a selfish, manipulative coward who had taken and taken until there was nothing left of me. And in that moment, something inside me shifted. He wasn't going to change. He wasn't going to love me the way I loved him. The only person who could save me from this mess was me. I didn't say a word. I simply stood, walked past him, and closed the bedroom door behind me. He yelled after me, insults and curses filling the air, but I didn't listen. For the first time in years, I felt strangely calm, because deep down, I knew this was the beginning of the end. The next morning, the air in the house was thick with unspoken words. Derek hadn't come to bed. When I finally opened the bedroom door, I found him passed out on the couch, the smell of whiskey heavy in the room. His arm dangled off the edge, his phone buzzing every few minutes with messages I didn't bother to check. I didn't need to. I knew exactly who they were from. I tiptoed around him, grabbed my purse, and left for work without a word. Driving down the familiar streets of our Denver neighborhood, I felt like a ghost. My body was there, but my mind was somewhere else entirely. Somewhere dark, somewhere heavy. At the office, my best friend Angela noticed right away. way. She pulled me into the break room, her eyes narrowing. "You look like hell, girl. Talk." And I did. For the first time, I spilled everything. The late nights, the lies, the texts, how he'd kissed her, how he twisted every confrontation until I felt like the crazy one, how I had saved for years to buy him that car, only for him to drive it to another woman's house. Angela listened, her arms crossed, her jaw tightening with every word. When I finished, she leaned forward. "You know what I'm gonna say, right? Leave him. Pack your stuff, call your dad, crash at my place, whatever it takes. Just leave." I nodded, but my heart wasn't ready to accept it. "It's not that simple. I've been with him for 6 years. We share everything. What if I can't make it on my own?" Angela grabbed my hands, her voice firm. "You already have been. You've carried that man for years. You bought him a car, for crying out loud. He's been draining you, not helping you. Imagine how much further you'd be without him dragging you down." Her words pierced me, lodging themselves in my chest. She was right. I knew she was right. But walking away from Derek felt like tearing out a piece of myself. That night, when I came home, Derek was waiting at the kitchen table, sober and stone-faced. "We need to talk," he said. The irony wasn't lost on me. I sat down across from him, bracing myself. "Look," he began, rubbing the back of his neck. "I messed up. I know I did. But you gotta understand, things between us, they've been off for a while. I didn't mean for it to happen, but I held up my hand. "Stop. Don't you dare blame me for this. You cheated. You lied. That's on you." He scowled, his temper rising. "I wouldn't have needed to if you weren't so busy all the time. Always working late, saving for this or that. What about me, huh? What about what I need?" I stared at him, stunned. All those years I had been breaking my back to support us, to build something better for both of us. And this was his excuse? That I hadn't been paying him enough attention? My voice shook, but it carried more steel than I thought possible. "What you needed, Derek, was to grow up, to take responsibility. Instead, you threw away the one person who believed in you." He slammed his fist on the table, making the salt shaker jump. "Don't talk to me like that. You're not perfect either." For the first time, I didn't shrink back. I didn't cry. I simply stood, walked to the bedroom, and closed the door. Inside, I started packing. I wasn't ready to leave that night, not completely, but I needed to know I had a plan. I folded clothes into a suitcase, tucked away my important documents, stashed a little cash I had hidden in the back of my dresser drawer. Each movement was like reclaiming a piece of myself. When Derek stumbled in and saw what I was doing, his expression shifted from rage to panic. "Wait, what are you doing? You're not really leaving, are you?" "I don't know yet," I said honestly, "but I can't keep living like this." He grabbed my arm, not hard, but firm enough to make my heart race. "Don't be stupid. You'll regret it. You think anyone else is gonna put up with you? You think you'll survive without me?" The words stung, but this time they didn't stick. I yanked my arm free, my voice steady. "Watch me." For the next few days, we danced around each other like strangers. Derek tried everything. Apologies, guilt trips, even extravagant gestures like cooking dinner or leaving flowers on the counter. But none of it erased the truth. Every time I looked at him, I saw her. I saw betrayal. One night, I caught him sneaking out again. I didn't follow. I didn't cry. I simply wrote down the license plate of the car parked outside his girlfriend's house and tucked it into my folder of evidence. I wasn't sure yet what I'd do with it, but I knew one day it would matter. The turning point came on a Saturday afternoon. I was cleaning out the closet when I found a small box tucked behind his shoes. Inside were receipts, hotel stays, dinners, jewelry I had never seen. My stomach twisted as I realized he hadn't just been cheating. He had been spoiling her with money we didn't have. When he came home, I was waiting with the box on the table. His eyes went wide. "Where did you—" "Don't bother," I interrupted, my voice cold. "You've been using me. Using my money, my sacrifices, to play house with her," he sneered, leaning against the wall. "So what? You're acting like you're some saint. You're not. You think buying me things gives you power over me? Please, I don't owe you anything." That was it. The last straw. I looked him dead in the eye. "You're right. You don't owe me anything. And I don't owe you my life anymore." That night, while he slept, I moved half my packed suitcase into the trunk of my car. I left the rest behind, not because I didn't want it, but because I no longer wanted the weight of our shared life. As I slid into the driver's seat, my hands trembling on the wheel, I realized I wasn't just leaving Derek. I was leaving the woman I had been with him, the one who settled for crumbs, who mistook manipulation for love. The road stretched ahead of me, empty and dark, but for the first time, it felt like freedom. I didn't know exactly where I was going, but I knew this. I was done being the woman who cried alone while the man she loved betrayed her. This was my breaking point, and I wasn't turning back. The morning after I left Derek, I woke on Angela's couch to the sound of her coffee maker sputtering in the kitchen. For a moment, I felt disoriented, like I'd stepped into someone else's life. The throw blanket clung to my skin, my suitcase sat by the door, and the silence of the house was nothing like the chaos I'd grown used to. It hit me then. I had really done it. I had walked away. Angela appeared with 2 mugs of steaming coffee and set one in front of me. "Morning, sunshine," she said gently. "How's it feel?" I sat up, rubbing my eyes. Strange. Like I'm floating. Like I'm free. But also terrified. She chuckled, sliding onto the chair across from me. "That's normal. Leaving someone like Derek isn't just walking away from him. It's walking away from the version of yourself that thought you couldn't live without him. That part takes time." Her words stayed with me all day. As I sat in traffic on the way to work, as I filed reports at my desk, as I stared at my phone buzzing with Derek's name lighting up the screen. He called, texted, begged. Then he raged. "You can't do this to me. After everything I've given you?" His words were laughable, but they still rattled me. Each message was a reminder of how tightly he wanted to keep me chained. Angela advised me not to respond. "Silence is the loudest answer you can give," she said. So I blocked his number. That single action made my chest feel 10 pounds lighter, but silence didn't mean peace. Derek showed up at my work 2 days later, waiting by the entrance. When I walked out, he stepped in front of me, his face tight with anger. "Really?" he spat. You just walk out? You think you can leave me like I'm nothing? I kept walking, but he followed. You're throwing away 6 years. For what? To live on your friend's couch like a loser? His words echoed, but instead of piercing me, they slid right off. I stopped, turned, and looked him square in the eye. No, Derek. I'm throwing away 6 years of lies, cheating, and manipulation. And for the first time, I don't feel like a loser. I feel like I can breathe. He blinked, stunned, as though he didn't recognize the woman standing in front of him. I brushed past him, my pulse pounding, but I didn't look back. That night, I started making a plan for my future. Angela and I sat at her dining table with my laptop open. Okay, she said. What's the dream? The question stopped me. For years, my dreams had been swallowed by Derek's needs, Derek's failures, Derek's promises. I hadn't allowed myself to think beyond survival. Tentatively, I said, I always wanted to finish school, maybe get my degree in business. I thought, maybe one day I'd start my own event planning company. But with Derek, there was never enough money, never enough time. Angela grinned. Well, now you've got both. You've got me, you've got time, and you've got freedom. Let's make it happen. Her belief in me lit something I thought had burned out. That night, I started researching night classes, scholarships, and small business programs in Denver. Each click on the keyboard felt like stitching together a new version of myself. But healing wasn't linear. Some nights, I lay awake on Angela's couch, haunted by memories. The good ones, the ones that made leaving so complicated. The laughter we once shared, the plans we once made. I'd close my eyes and wonder if I'd made the right choice. Then I'd remember the receipts, the texts, the way he made me feel small. And I knew I hadn't just made the right choice. I'd made the only choice. Weeks passed. Slowly, I carved out a new rhythm. Work during the day, classes at night. On weekends, I helped Angela's cousin with her catering business, learning the ropes of event planning. For the first time in years, my life was busy in a way that filled me instead of draining me. Derek, meanwhile, unraveled. I heard through mutual friends that the girlfriend he'd risked everything for had left him after finding out he had no job, no savings, and no car, because the one I bought had been repossessed when he stopped making payments. He showed up at bars, bitter and drunk, ranting about how I'd ruined his life. The irony didn't escape me. One night, after a long shift helping with a wedding reception, I sat with Angela on her porch, sipping iced tea. She nudged me with her elbow. You realize how far you've come, right? Look at you, working, studying, planning weddings. You're glowing, girl. I laughed, embarrassed. Glowing? Please, I'm exhausted. Exhausted but free, she said. That's a good look on you. And she was right. For the first time, exhaustion felt like progress, not defeat. But Derek wasn't finished with me. A few days later, I came home to find an envelope wedged under Angela's door. Inside was a photo of me at class, walking into the community college building, circled in red marker. Scrawled across the page were the words, "You think you can replace me?" My stomach dropped. He was watching me. Angela called the police, but without a direct threat, they couldn't do much. Keep everything documented, the officer advised. If he escalates, call us immediately. That night, lying awake, fear crept in. But beneath the fear was something stronger, anger. He still thought he could scare me into submission. He still thought he had power over me, but he didn't realize he was only fueling the fire. The next morning, I filed for a restraining order. When Derek was served, Angela said he made a scene in the parking lot, shouting that I was ruining his life. But I didn't care. I wasn't that broken woman anymore. I was building something new, something solid, and for the first time, I could see it clearly, a future without him. The day the restraining order was granted, I walked out of the courthouse with trembling hands, clutching the papers like they were a shield. It wasn't just a legal document. It was proof that I had taken back my voice. For years, I'd given Derek the power to decide who I was, what I could do, where I could go. Now, the state itself was telling him, you don't own her anymore. But as much as the order gave me comfort, it didn't erase the damage. My body still flinched at unexpected shadows. My heart still raced when I thought about how he might retaliate. And yet, beneath all that, there was a steady current of resolve. Derek had already stolen enough of my life. He wasn't going to steal my future, too. Angela stood by me through everything. One day, she told me as we sorted through the wedding invoices in her dining room, you'll look back on all of this and realize it was the beginning, not the end. I wanted to believe her, and slowly, piece by piece, I began to. Classes consumed my evenings. Event planning jobs filled my weekends. My savings account, once drained by Derek's habits, began to grow again. Each dollar I tucked away felt like a brick in the foundation of the life I was building. Then came the call that changed everything. Angela's cousin, the caterer I had been helping, recommended me to a couple looking for a planner for their daughter's graduation party. I met with them in a cozy diner, notebook in hand, nerves buzzing. By the time dessert was served, they had hired me on the spot. It was my first solo event. The night of the party, I moved through the venue like a conductor, cueing the DJ, directing the servers, smoothing tablecloths before the guests arrived. When the evening ended in laughter and applause, the parents pressed an envelope into my hand. Inside was my first official payment as an event planner. It wasn't much, but to me it was gold. Proof that I was capable, valuable, and finally on my way. Derek, meanwhile, was spiraling. Friends who had once defended him now avoided his calls. He lost his apartment after missing too many rent payments. And rumors spread that he was crashing on couches, working odd jobs, still blaming me for everything. One night, I spotted him outside the grocery store, slumped on the curb with a bottle in his hand. For a moment, my chest tightened with a complicated mix of pity and old love. Then he looked up, and I saw the bitterness etched deep into his face. His choices had written his downfall. Mine were writing my freedom. I walked past him without a word, head high, heart steady. It wasn't easy. Healing never is. Some nights, the loneliness hit me like a wave, and I wondered if I'd ever trust again, if love could exist without betrayal lurking in the shadows. But then I'd think of my dreams, of the small victories piling up. An A on a business course paper, a satisfied client, a quiet evening where I felt peace instead of dread. And I'd remind myself, this is what love looks like when it's turned inward. Months passed. My client list grew slowly but steadily. Angela and I celebrated each milestone with cheap wine and laughter, our living room filled with vision boards and sticky notes. "You're unstoppable," she'd say. And for the first time, I believed her. Then came the final blow to Derek's hold on me. I was preparing for a client meeting when I received a call from the police. Derek had been arrested for breaking the restraining order, showing up drunk outside my community college class. He had been shouting my name, demanding I come outside until security intervened. This time, there were consequences. He faced charges, and though part of me grieved for the man I once loved, another part of me, the stronger part, felt only relief. I didn't attend the hearing. I didn't need to see him in handcuffs to know that chapter was closed. I had already sentenced him in my heart the moment I chose myself over him. Life, slowly but surely, shifted into something beautiful. My father, who had been skeptical at first, came to see me at one of my events. He watched me direct a team of decorators with confidence, his eyes shining. "You've got your mother's fire," he said softly, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was making my family proud. By the time autumn rolled around, I had saved enough money to move out of Angela's house and into a small apartment of my own. It wasn't much, just 2 rooms with creaky floors and mismatched cabinets, but it was mine. Every corner whispered independence. Every bill I paid reminded me of how far I'd come. One evening, after unpacking the last box, I sat on the balcony overlooking the city lights, the cool breeze brushing against my skin. I thought back to the woman who had once cried on the couch, clutching receipts of betrayal, wondering if she was enough. I thought of the car I had bought with love, the one Derek had driven to another woman's home while I wept. That woman was gone. In her place stood someone scarred but unbroken, someone who had learned that betrayal doesn't define you. It frees you, if you let it. As I sipped my coffee, I whispered into the night, "You didn't break me." And this time, I knew I was speaking not to Derek, but to every shadow of doubt that had ever tried to keep me small, because I wasn't small anymore. I was enough. I was more than enough. And my story was only just beginning.